Hey! I wanted to talk about some of my favorite books because I do have quite a few. Not as many as I want. I want like a full library, like floor to ceiling bookshelves built into the wall, like beautiful. That's my goal in life, is to have that. So I've got sort of some classic books. Gone with the Wind. I went through a phase where I was really, really into classic books, so I got all of my favorite ones once I had a job and had my own money, because I was in like middle school-ish when I read all of them. But they were still good. The one classic book that I don't like is Moby Dick, because it took so long to read it, and I was so bored through the entire thing. And I've recently heard this rule that, like, if you don't like it in the first 100 pages, then just stop reading it. Just don't. Which I wish I had known that before, like when I was reading like Moby Dick and stuff, because I just was not into the book, and I would have stopped reading that. But if you like it, more power to you, because it's a read. But Gone with the Wind, longest book I've ever read, but I love it. Then I have Divergent. I don't have the third one, which is okay with me because I didn't really like it. The ending is a little, if you've read it, you know what I mean. Don't love it, but it's fine. I've watched the movie, but I don't really remember it. But I've read the book. I feel like that's better. No offense to people who just watch the movies, that's cool too, but like I love to read the books. Reading has always been like a passion of mine. I've always really loved to read. I've always, like, ever since I was little. Although I was one of those kids that was like in kindergarten reading on a fifth grade level, and then now I'm just like tone it down a bit. But whatever. So I have Lord of the Rings. I have all three of them because I have a website where I buy all my books for really, really cheap. But I've only read part of the first one. I never had time to finish it. So hopefully I'll be able to like read through that. I'm kind of working on reading all of my books, and it's fine. Um, I have the John Green books. This is my John Green selection. I have the latest one, Turtles All the Way Down, which I pre-ordered a signed copy because it came out on my birthday. So I figured that would be like my birthday present to myself. But I've read all of those multiple times. It's fun. Perks of Being a Wallflower. Personally, I like the movie better on this one, but it's still really, really good. I still really love it, and it still makes me cry every time. I have A Tale of Two Cities, which I bought because I was supposed to read it in high school, and I skimmed through it, and I never actually read it, but I've heard that it's really, really good, and I know people who are like obsessed with it, and so I want to read it and get into it, but every time I start, I'm like, not feeling it. Don't love it. Whatever. A couple more really good classic-y kind of books. Wrinkle in Time. Still want to see the movie. It came out a few years ago, last year, something like that. I don't know. But I love the book, and I want to see the movie and read more of them because it's like a series. They're all like connected. And I've read one other one, I think. I've read a Swiftly Tilting Planet, which I read first before I realized that there were more of them, but my mom always had A Wrinkle in Time, and she always really loved it. So I read that one eventually, and it was really, really good. Moving up here, these books I kind of forget about. These are all like notebooks and stuff. A couple more like classic-y, The Odyssey, stuff like that. Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks. I bought this because we used to always go to Barnes and Noble, and my mom would be like, you can pick out one book each. And I never knew what book to get because I was always like, well, I love so many books, so I'm just gonna go read all the descriptions and pick one that I like. And I read the description of this, and I was, I don't know, like 10. Maybe I don't actually know when this book came out. I might have been older. But I read the description, and I was like, well, that sounds good. And I bought it, and I love it. I've read this book so many times. It's an easy read, and so when I get bored, and I'm like, I want to read something, but I don't want it to be, like, difficult, and I want to be able to just speed through it, this is what I pick up. Either this or The Doll People. Because they're both just super good, super easy to read. So when I'm in the mood for something and I just want to like snap it out, like those are my two options. I got some James Patterson, just one because I never really was into like a lot of his books. Steelheart, which I mentioned that I read recently. This is probably the last series that I read. Steelheart and Firefight. and I still want to read the third one, but I don't have it. And once I'm like financially stable, I'm gonna get the third one, which I'm gonna link the website in the description. It's called Thrift Books. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's really popular. That's where I get all of my books for cheap. They're all like $3, the ones that I get anyway. We have The Door Within and Hunter Brown, which I have not read yet, but my husband says they're really, really good. So we have them, and I will read them at some point. They're on the list, things to read. Then down here on the bottom shelf that you can't see, I have a trilogy. It's Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and I'm reading it right now, actually. It's going to be the next book that I read. So I've read the first two. I read them in high school, and I never got to read the third one, because by the time I found like a free copy of it, I was like, don't have time. Like, it was my senior year, I think, and I just was busy. I was working all the time. I was going to school. And it was a super easy year. I just didn't have a lot of like free time. So I never got around to reading the third one. So I went to Books A Million one time last year, and I saw them, and they were all like used copies, and they were all like $5, except I think this first one was like $12. But I got a discount on it because my friend had a card. So I bought all three, obviously, and I'm gonna reread them. I think I've started rereading this one like 3 times, and I'm gonna get through it, and I'll get through the second one, and then I'll get to read the third one, and I'm sure it'll be really, really good, because I really loved these the first time I read them. We'll see. Got a few more. I've got a mythology book that I got my sophomore year of high school that I kept because I'm really into Greek mythology. Like, it's super just interesting and cool to read about. Speaking of which, there's actually a book series that I don't have physical copies of, but I have like digital copies of on my computer, that I've read the first like 3 or 4, and then I just didn't have time and lost track of where I was, and I need to go and reread all of those. It's called the Gatekeeper Saga, and it's about like Greek mythology, and this girl like falls in love with the, I don't want to say like the prince of the underworld, but basically the prince of the underworld is Hades' son. And it's so good. It's so good. And I need to go back and reread them because I never got to finish it. And oh my god, they're amazing. I love them. Go read them. Gatekeeper's Saga. I've got a few others. I've got like Where the Red Fern Grows, which I don't read very often because it makes me cry, and I don't want to, I cry too much anyway, so I don't want to like add on to that unless I have to. So sometimes if I'm just like feeling sad and I want to read something, I'll read Where the Red Fern Grows because it's just the saddest story ever. Pride and Prejudice. Favorite book like ever. This is also a really easy read for me. Like, my sister said she couldn't get into it. She didn't really love it too much, but oh my god. I love this book so much. I've read it multiple times, and I have like cups that I found at Books A Million that have like quotes and little pictures and stuff on them, and oh my god, I just love it. I love it so much. The book, and then I used to really, really love the movie, and I still do, like the newer like 2005 or whatever movie. And I was like, no, I don't really want to watch the miniseries because I just really love the movie, and I read the book all the time, so it's fine. I don't need to watch it. And then they didn't have the movie on Hulu, but they had the miniseries, so I was like, guess I'll give it a try then. And I did. And I love it. If you don't want to read the book and you want to watch like the movie, I recommend starting with the miniseries because the miniseries is so true to the book, like the wording and everything. Obviously, there are minor differences for like changing it to TV, but it's so close to the book, and I love it so much. And I may not read this one yet. I may go back and read Pride and Prejudice again, honestly, because I could just read it over and over and over, and I just love it so. Girl, I love it so much. I have a couple Bibles. I got a Bible that I got when I graduated. Actually, I got both of these when I graduated. I have a King James version I got from my church, and I have a New King James, or I think it's an NIV actually, that I got from my school when I graduated. High school, not college. I didn't graduate college. I had the Chronicles of Narnia. This took me literal years to get through. Because when I say it's the Chronicles of Narnia, look at that. It's the entire Chronicles of Narnia. This is 7 books. And so when I say it took me literal years to get through, I read the first one when I was like, I don't know, 12. And then I read the second one, I think, when I was like 12. And then I just didn't finish them until a couple years ago. I was like in college and I was like, I don't want to do my homework. Narnia. And it's so good. It's really, really good. And I should go back and reread it because I don't remember all of it, but like, it's a lot. And I'm probably just not going to anytime soon. It's fine. This is my favorite story one. This one was mine. I found it before I moved into college and I was like, yeah, I'm going to take all these books with me. Obviously, I'll read them. And I took this one. And then I started to read it. I don't know where we got this. Some library, something or other. Which is probably why we only have this one. Because I went to go read this. And it's called A Man Rides Through. And it starts on book 3. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Chapter 27. Early the next morning. I was so confused, and I read that first sentence, and I went and looked at the front, and it says, Volume 2. Right there. And that's when I realized I'm just kind of dumb, and I brought this with me, and I've kept it, and it's Volume 2, and I'm hoping eventually I can find Mordaunt's Need Volume 1. I haven't really looked. I think I did look once, and I couldn't find anything about it. So, they're not cheap anyway, so we'll see. I'll figure that out. That's fine. I'll get to read it eventually. Had it for years. Then I have The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire, which my mom bought me because I was super, super, super into Janet Phil. I was watching all of their videos. I was like, Mom, please. And it was like on sale at Walmart or something, so she bought it for me. So that's pretty much my book collection. This is the one I'm reading next, Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I will put a few of the titles that I've mentioned that I really love down in the description, along with the website where I get most of my books. Yeah, so I'll leave all that down in the description. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know some of your favorite books because I'm always looking for new suggestions, even though I've only read about half of all of this. I'd love to add to it, and I would love to get more. So let me know.